Hello, Scott Sylvan Bell coming to you live from Oahu. It is August 30th, 2015, 7:42 in the morning. And I got a question for you. Can you learn how to handle objections from stand-up comedians? Can you learn how to handle objections from stand-up comedians? You're like, that's kind of a strange question. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. You know, I like to do things that I can figure out how to teach you how to be a better salesperson by asking questions that are a little bit different than anything you've ever heard of. Now, there's a video clip going around on the internet and it has a bunch of stand-up comedians dealing with hecklers. Right? So you can learn how to sell better from watching comedians deal with a heckler. Now there's two types of really things that happen here. So the first comedian is the person who just absolutely loses it. Now this was me when I first started doing sales. I'm gonna raise my hand and say, hey, I made a lot of mistakes. This was me, okay? And so the comedians will absolutely lose it. Somebody will say something out in the crowd and the stand-up comedian will freak out and be like, are you kidding me? You're here at a live show, you need to knock this off, okay? That's the first one, that's a mistake. Now the second one, the second thing that a stand-up comedian does is they handle it with grace, but they take it with a little bit of humor in stride, and they'll say something funny. And so for you, a lot of times when you're dealing with objections, if you're the first guy where you freak out, you've lost. The second guy, the second comedian, where he says something funny, gets the entire crowd on the side, and it kind of makes the person feel dumb. Now, I'm not saying make your buyer feel dumb, but I am saying do not react and freak out like the first set of stand-up comedians do. The better thing to do is to figure out how you're going to answer that question, which really an objection is a question, and figure out how to answer that question so that you keep that person and you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. Now, there are times where people will give me an objection and they say something and like the little devil who sits on my shoulder, right? Well, he's not a little devil, he's like a big devil. He's like, come on, Scott, say what you're really thinking. Just say what you're thinking. And I have to pull myself back and go, that's probably not a good idea because it involves curse words. And then I have to remind myself that it's gonna be okay, I've done this before, it's not that big of a deal. This happens a lot, especially with a difficult buyer. Now, I was at a big box store buying some electronics a couple weeks back, and the salesperson I needed some help from because I had a question about a laptop that I was getting, and he was getting the, oh my goodness, this lady on a scale of 1 to 10 was like a 15 on a scale of difficulty. And I look for a sales lesson everywhere that I can, and I'm sitting here and I'm watching this guy, and he dealt with this lady perfectly. He answered all of her questions. She was very challenging, and then even after she bought, after she made her decision, she still had more questions and they were still challenging. So here's the thing, when somebody's being difficult, you got two things you can do. You could freak out like the weak stand-up comedians do, or you can handle it with some grace, you can handle it with elegance, and then walk them through a process and show that everything's gonna be okay. Now, the other thing is not everybody's your client, so sometimes you have to decide that you're not gonna do business with somebody, and that's okay too, all right? So handle objections with grace. You can definitely learn stuff from stand-up comedians, taking hecklers, and deal with some objections. Now, if you could do a small favor for me in the box down below, leave a comment, question, or story, that'd be fantastic. To the right or to the left, there is a subscribe button. Subscribe and then send it out to all your friends via StumbleUpon, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, LinkedIn. Scott Sylvan Bell. Only Scott Bell, Seminole. See you soon. Thanks for watching. Aloha.